Go for it. Don't hold back. Do not play small, and don't let fear stop you. Really, this may sound like impossible, but embrace the fear and do what's scary or hard or what feels even beyond you. And maybe something you're not ready for, because that is exactly where your next breakthrough is. And this idea of pursuing the impossible is the title of my book that I'm writing, because I'm telling you, you need to first be aware of possibility for your business. Second, you need to see that possibility for you. And finally, you got to believe it. You got to really believe it and go for it.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Judy Weber. And
It's Weber. It's
Weber.
Judy Weber.
And Judy started her journey growing up as a in quotes poor girl in a big family in a small town, and but had a great her childhood. Went off to college and got a music educational degree, and then afterwards went to work for Macy's doing some management with outside sales. Went off to law school, graduated, got a great job. Got married, pregnant, had 3 kids, left the practice of law, and then around 2003 started a business doing interior design. Ended up going through divorce, got a real estate license. Also went to work as in-house counsel in legal capacity before transitioning what she's doing now, which is business coaching with her sister. So with that much as a introduction, welcome on the podcast, Judy.
Thanks, Devin. I'm so excited to be here and share with your audience.
I'm excited to have you here as well. I'm looking forward to a great discussion. So I just gave a quick run through to a much longer journey. So why don't we rewind and unpack that a bit and tell us a little bit about how your journey got started growing up in a small town with a big family.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so much I could say. So let's try to be precise here. Now, I knew since I was a little girl that God had big things for me. I remember telling my mom, hey, Mom, God told me I'm going to do something pretty important. And by the way, I think I'm going to be a millionaire. And we were so poor, living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, I was too young to really remember her reaction, except she was probably thinking, she's a big dreamer. But I always pursued things that people like me weren't supposed to do. Not many people from my small town in suburban Philadelphia even leave the area, much less even go to college, and much less do the things I've done. But in high school, I knew I was going to college. I didn't have any idea how I was going to pay for it, and it never really bothered me. And then years later, when I graduated college, and I remember when I was a senior, I sat in on the pre-law session. And I was like, oh, I'd love to be a lawyer. Devin, I love those movies with women looking awesome in their suits and, in New York with the big office and the big window. And I thought, gosh, I would just love that. Is that really for me? I didn't think it was possible. And so for 5 years, I did sales, started at Macy's. I was a music teacher, graduated at the top of the class. Nobody was hiring in the East Coast. They kept saying, go out West. No, thank you. I love Cali. I have many friends out West, but I'm an East Coast girl. So worked at Macy's, commission, did really well, got promoted to manager. And then I'm like, ooh, I got the sales bug. Let's go outside. So I went to outside sales, did really well. Long story short, guess who I got in front of? I worked for Dictaphone. So that put me in front of attorneys. And as I was talking to them, I'm like, wait, okay, that person didn't seem super smart. If they can do it, I can do it. So I applied at the age of 25, got in at 26 at Villanova, loved that experience. And every day I'd go to school and I'd be like, wow, I can't believe I'm here, Lord. Thank you, thank you, thank you for this opportunity. And again, when you're talking about 6-figure plus debt, I was kind of scared about the debt, but not really. Like I always had my eye on what I wanted and didn't let anything stop me. So then I got this great job and I'm going to wrap up and take a breath in just a second, but I remember being in my office with the window, a
Mm.
Philadelphia area firm. And I'm like, I got it, but I don't think this is everything. Like, I don't think this is everything. And circumstances kind of played out that way that confirmed it. I got pregnant. That was August when I started my job. In January, I found out I was pregnant with my first child. And a couple of months later, when I announced that, I was like blacklisted, like totally off the partnership track. It was like a whole different experience inside once that happened. And so I knew I already had one foot out the door. So I'm going to take a breath there and see if you have any questions up to that point.
No, I certainly understand. So it sounds like you're now just rewinding a little bit when you were, or, so you'd always kind of had law or practice of law and going into that, sounded of interest. But how did you decide to, making that, having that interest versus making that leap or actually getting into pursuing that path and going down, doing schooling, getting the degree and going to the or switching career field? Was there a triggering point or at a point where you're saying, hey, it's finally time to pursue that, or was it more of a gradual thing, or kind of walk us through how you made that bit of the shift in the career from working at Macy's to go into law?
Yeah. And it wasn't Macy's, it was Macy's and then outside sales. So I was an outside sales rep, had all the freedom in the world. I had a territory in Chester County, Berks County, Bucks County in Pennsylvania. If anybody's listening is from that neck of the woods, and I loved it. That was where I'm from. I'm from Berks County, PA, near Reading and Allentown. But then I was working for Dictaphone at that time, put me in front of lawyers. And there was one moment where I decided. So I love that you brought this question up. It was a Friday night after a long day of appointments, and my last appointment was with a solo practitioner. And I remember feeling like, and I don't, if you know me, I'm really not, I have high expectations of myself and others, but I'm not a mean kind of person. But I remember when I walked out of this guy's office, I'm mumbling to myself in the parking lot. And I'm like, Judy, why are you waiting? That guy's an idiot. If he can make it in law school and he can pass the bar, you can too. So let's go. And that was the beginning of me saying, okay, I'm making my plan. Then I started getting my LSAT prep books, and the rest is history. So yeah, that was a pivotal moment for me.
No, and thank you for filling that in. So you make that switch, you have that realization, you go off to law school, you get the degree, and you said you get into the practice of law, and then I think with a lot of career paths, including law, you find, hey, this may not be exactly what I anticipated, or may not or quite be what I want to do long term. So as you're kind of doing that, how did you kind of figure out, okay, I like the practice of law, but it's not the only thing in life. And so where did you kind of go from there? Or how did you decide or proceed from there?
Awesome. I will go there, but there's one quick thing that I want to go back to in the
Sure,
way
go
of
ahead.
impossible. Thank you. And that is something happened in law school. That was another example of my pursue the impossible. I always wanted to graduate at the top. Never did. I was never quite number one. I was always in the top 10. But at Villanova, the first semester is like you take exams, but it doesn't really count. So your entire year's grades are in the semester of spring. And I'll never forget how disappointed I was. The top 25 of the class got into law review, and that was a goal of mine. And I was number 26. Let me tell you something. Devin, I was like heartbroken. I was like, what? And part of me could have been like reeling and saying, oh crap, now you're not going to make your goal. But instead, what happened was the next semester, the funny thing is I studied less, and I was number one in the entire class, and that pulled me up from number 26 to number 10, and I graduated number 6. But the point of what I'm saying to you is I'm not bragging on my brains. I am not a genius, but when I have a goal, I go for it. And so for those listening, if you have that desire to do anything, whether it's starting a business, whether it's going to school that people like you don't pursue, don't let any circumstance or any negative whatever from anybody, even your own brain, stop you from going for it. Because if you're determined to do it and you're willing, that's a huge word for me, Devin. If you are willing to go through the hard, if you are willing to feel all the feels, but do it anyway, and try to do it with an attitude of, I can do this, especially with the Lord's help, where I'm all about faith, then don't let anything stop you. All right. So the transition, I loved practicing law. I did not enjoy, I was in Philly, so, it's a liberal type thing and, a lot of corruption. I will tell you that I saw it firsthand at every level, the county level, the state level. I have stories that could wrinkle your toes or whatever the expression. But I just felt like this is great for me. I am very much enjoy working with clients. I'm an advocate. I am built for advocacy, but it just didn't feel right. And so when I had my third child, the funny thing is, my parents were watching my kids. And I remember, and they were, well, my mom's 33 years older than me and dad's 38. So I was like early 30s. And I remember I said, hey guys, guess what? I'm pregnant with baby number 3. And the reaction I got was not what I expected. Mom's like, well, Judy, we can't watch 3. I thought she was kidding. So I start laughing. And then I look and neither she nor my dad were laughing. So I kind of by necessity had to quit and do what is the hardest job in the world, being a good mom, being a good parent. But I will tell you, there was a lot of guilt there, Devin, because I felt like, as important as this is, there was something more. I felt like, something more. So I would say within a year, I started my business, my interior decorating business, with no training except HGTV and a knack for it. And it was really awesome because I had my parents and others to support me as far as babysitting and taking care of my kids when I was away, and what happened was I'm very strategic. Law school taught me to win. I strategize to win. I do not lose. Even when I lose, quote unquote, or fail, I still learn from it and then, get up and go again until you win. So I said, what am I going to do to launch this business in a really successful way? And what that was is I'm going to get a booth at a home show, and not just get a booth and be there, but I was very strategic in saying, what is my booth going to look like? And what incentives am I going to have for them to book an appointment for me? And I left that one weekend with 14 appointments and I got 10 clients from that. So that was the entrepreneurial bug that just has bitten all the way through.
No, sounds like they found a good spot and a good opportunity. Now, backing up just a little bit. So, I mean, so you went to the practice of law, and then during that period of time, you got married, you had kids, and kind of went through that aspect as well. And you touched on a little bit as to, I think, filling the tug and pull of where you focus your time and effort. Now, at that point, you did interior design after leaving the practice of law, and then I think you got divorced during that period and did the real estate license and in-house counsel and all that prior to getting into the coaching, which is what you're doing now. But kind of walk us through
Yeah.
interior design, real estate, and in-house counsel, how those kind of fit within your journey.
Yeah, I'll give you the time frame. So 2000, let me think. 2002 is when I quit the practice of law. And in early 2003 is when I launched my interior decorating business, as I'm thinking about the dates there. And I did that for a time, and I don't even know how long. And the most difficult part of that job was other contractors, painters, handymen, people who are supposed to be installing things. And I am very like this, I'm very punctual. Don't mess with my time. A schedule is hard and fast, barring emergencies. And I'll never forget one time the painter's like, I'm like, where are you? I'm like at my client's house and they're like getting angry and I'm getting frustrated. And he's like, oh, well, I'm over down here at Joe Blow's house. I had to take care of their exterior painting because, we had rain last week. So I have to do this now. I'm like, well, did you think you were going to call and tell me about that? Anyway, so before long, I'm realizing, okay, well, I love my clients, but these contractors are making me nuts. So I don't even remember exactly what I did, but at some point in around 2007, 2008, I was doing different entrepreneurial ventures. In 2007, 2008 is when I got my real estate license. So that is when I transferred to being that. I was always either a full-time mom or a full-time lawyer with another part-time thing, right? So in this period of 2008 until about 2010, I was a full-time mom with a part-time real estate agency or real estate business. And I loved it. Oh my God, it was so amazing. But in 2009, I knew we were getting divorced. So then I got a new job in 2010. So then I was a full-time lawyer again and a part-time real estate agent with a mom that was very dedicated to her kids. My men are men of the Lord, and they're such great guys. But so in 2010, I then switched to work with a boutique agency, a boutique law firm, and we were doing medical malpractice defense, representing doctors and hospitals. Absolutely loved that. This is when I learned to take the complicated like a stack of medical records, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pieces of paper, and simplify it. Take the complex and make it simple, as I need to present the medicine to the jury, to the judges. And I absolutely loved that. But an opportunity came knocking at my door, where a friend of my husband said, you know what, I need in-house counsel and I would absolutely love it. I know that, I've heard great things about you. Would you like to do that? So I jumped in as general counsel and HR director, which is awesome because in my first stint in the law, I also kind of worked on labor law. So it was just a beautiful mix of all of my talents. I loved that job. I thrived in that job. Loved everybody except the head guy, the boss. I will tell you, it was a chauvinist pig. Can I just say he was an a-hole? He was an a-hole. He was horrible. He hated my Christianity, and he was just on me all the time on that. Anyway, so I was there for a couple of years, but then my sister said, hey, Jude, my twin sister, by the way, who's like, hey, Jude, we were always wanted to do business together. Maybe now's the right time. And here we're about 2016, 2017. And so I jumped and we did it. I will wrap that up very quickly to say, if anybody would have said that my twin sister, my best friend in life, and I couldn't have worked together, I would have said, you're nuts. But after about a year and a couple of months, it just didn't work. We just approached business differently. I love her and support her all the way. There was a time when I thought the relationship would be broken forever. Praise God, we have come together and mended from that. But in, I guess, early 2019, late 2018 is when I decided to go all in on working with Christian women to build their service-based businesses. And now, through it all, I see how God was at work to bring me all these different experiences that allow me to really pour into my clients at a high level with sophisticated thinking, like powerful decision making, and really just going for it and not holding back.
Oh, that's awesome. So no, it sounds like, after testing out a few different fields, kind of working through them and kind of figuring out the right fit, the one that was the one that was for you was to work with work with your sister and doing the consulting area you are now. And so now, as we've kind of reached the present day of the journey, and it already has flown by, but as we're reaching that point, I always like to wrap up each episode with the same two questions. So we'll jump to those now. So the first question I'd like to ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made, and what did you learn from it?
Well, I was thinking in terms of business mistakes, and I have two real quick, if I may. Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
One is perfection, thinking that there's one right way to do things, whether it's marketing or a sales script or something like that. So it's like perfection, taking too much time to prepare, getting ready to get ready, and revision after revision. And, obviously I've learned from myself and countless other clients with whom I've been blessed to work, that doesn't work. Perfect doesn't. I always say, be perfectly imperfect and be good with that. Have high expectations and standards, but don't stop yourself by setting unrealistic standards, especially when you're, in the early stages and just getting started. And the second big mistake is around copy. As a trial attorney, and I was not only in the courtroom, but also I wrote appellate briefs. I was the one that the partners would send and assign, okay, this is a loser, but we're going to send it to Judy. It's going to be a Hail Mary. See if you can find the hook on which we might be able to win. And I loved it. But when I transitioned into entrepreneurship, I still had that formal type of writing. I see how now that was just really bad. Like now I'm very conversational. I write as I speak because writing is how we connect with our audience, right? And our words that we use. And now when you write as you speak or speak as you speak, right, on a conversation like this, it's when your personality really comes through. So the best client will either qualify in or out just from that. So those are two huge learnings that I've developed over the years.
Awesome. Well, definitely sounds like some great learning, some great mistakes to make and things learned from them to help you along your journey. So now, second question I'd like to ask you. So now if you're talking with somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what'd be the one piece of advice you give them?
Yeah, go for it. Don't hold back. Do not play small, and don't let fear stop you. Really, this may sound like impossible, but embrace the fear and do what's scary or hard or what feels even beyond you. and maybe something you're not ready for, because that is exactly where your next breakthrough is. And this idea of pursuing the impossible is the title of my book that I'm writing, because I'm telling you, you need to first be aware of possibility for your business. Second, you need to see that possibility for you. And finally, you got to believe it. You got to really believe it and go for it.
Awesome. No, I think that's definitely, hey, it's a simple piece of advice. It's a great takeaway and definitely makes perfect sense. So awesome. Well, now as we do wrap up the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Okay. Well, first, I will say at Judy Weber Co. is where you can find me on any and all social. A great place to really get to know me is at my podcast, Joyful Scaling Podcast. And you can find that at judyweber.co/podcast. But I also have a special resource for your listeners, if I may. Is that all right, Devin, if I share that?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
All right. I have a 5-day training series that's delivered straight to your inbox for you to consume on your own schedule. And inside, you're going to learn a very simple process for growing a purposeful and profitable service-based business without overthinking, without overworking, and without ever compromising your values. So if you go to judyweber.co/5-day workshop, judyweber.co/5-day workshop, you can go grab that as my gift to you.
Awesome. Well, I definitely appreciate the offer. Definitely encourage the audience to take advantage of that, and also reach out to Judy, support a great business. If nothing else, make a new best friend. So, with that, thank you again, Judy, for coming on the podcast. It's been a fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you the listeners that are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. Just go to inventiveguest.com, apply to be on the show. A couple more things as listeners. Make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review. Helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey of success. And on that note, if you ever need help along your journey with patents or trademarks or anything else for your startup or your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Judy, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thanks, Devin. Great to be here.